Sadly, the other day I got a very deep scratch under my car. It's not too noticeable from eye level, but underneath you can see it's a deep scratch and a dent. And I thought I would do what I could to try to make this disappear on my own. Obviously I can do nothing about that dent, but I thought I would do my best to get rid of the scratch and touch up the paint with some things I have around the house, and I'll walk through them here. The Dr. Colorchip paint system is really made for paint chips, of course, which are much smaller than this. And Tesla actually sells this exact thing through its store. It's just rebranded with Tesla. It's the exact same product. But by buying it direct from Dr. Colorchip, you can buy a few extra accessories that we'll need. The first step here is a Meguiar's Unigrit paint sanding block. Not something I would normally use, but because this is so deep and there's some rough scratches, I'm going to use this after being soaked in water for a few minutes to kind of wear down the rougher areas here so it's smooth. This thing actually wears more of its own self away than the paint. It's made for this. So I just kind of use my finger to tell if it's smooth enough yet or not. Continue sanding. I'm wiping away any dust with a wet cloth. The next step is more typical of light scratches. This is a normal paint polish and a hand polishing pad that's dense on one side. This usually removes the lighter scratches in a clear coat. Can make some scratches disappear, but it's not going to do much to something this deep. I go through the process anyway. And you just kind of rub this in for a while till it disappears, and maybe help some of the smaller parts go away. Alright, now onto the Dr. Colorchip paint system. The first part is just a color matched paint that they mix to order. The second part, that seal act there, is a chemical that kind of wears it back away, mainly using these special terry towels also included. Normally used for small paint chips. If they're really tiny, you can't even tell that this has been used. A larger chip you might get from certain angles, especially in a paint like that. But let's get going here. I'm going to start with the largest brush and kind of paint over everything. And the first step, don't even worry about getting it all over the place, because the whole point is to kind of remove the excess in this system. So I'm just applying that paint with the largest included brush over every part of the scratch. By the time I'm done, it looks from a distance like it's covered, but as you get close, that paint looks pretty terrible. Obviously I've gone all over the place, but that's how the system is supposed to be used, at least on this first coat. After letting that paint dry for 10 or 15 minutes, we move on to the seal-act solution here. The chemicals combined with these special cloths that are included in the kit are going to wear away the relatively new paint and leave alone the existing paint behind. So on a small chip, it may be in one step, you'll have no noticeable bubbles or anything and no excess paint. So you just kind of go back and forth and up and down, and hard to see in video, but with your eyes you can kind of see the stuff wearing away the paint that's over the existing paint. And so I kind of gonna go in both directions. You can see it's definitely removing the new paint. Don't worry, it's not taking the factory finish away. And now you see that actually it removes most of the paint. It's very difficult to keep the paint on the edges there. Now we let that coat of paint dry for 15 minutes to an hour. Kind of wipe everything off with the included microfiber cloth and move on to the next coat. Now I've moved down to the next smaller micro brush. I personally recommend you order a lot of extra of these brushes. They're hard to come by and they're so helpful for any kind of touch-up paint. I'm still kind of putting this on a little bit more liberally here because I know there's no hope here of doing this in 2 or 3 coats. But again, just fill in all the unpainted areas, wait 15 minutes, then go back to the seal act to wear it back down again. Let it dry for a good hour, and we'll move on to the third coat. Now I'm using the tiniest little micro brush here. Again, I would order extra of these because they're very hard to come by, but this lets me put the tiniest bit on. And now to kind of save myself work, I'm trying to just work it on the areas that need it. So I'm not going to wear down the paint so much on the next step 2. So we might have taken a few extra steps here, but the bottom line is the scratches are gone. at least from a distance. Even up close, you really don't notice it. You'd have to really be a few inches away to see this texture on this. Of course, I can do nothing about this dent, but I'm much happier now. You can see before, the very noticeable deep gouge is gone. Please check the links in the description. I list everything I've used here, especially those micro brushes and wiping cloths that I think you should order extra of. And please subscribe to my channel for more Tesla tech videos and product reviews. Thanks.